Hi, I'm Betty. Welcome to my kitchen. Corned beef and cabbage is kind of a staple dish found everywhere from restaurants to diners, particularly around St. Patrick's Day. Now, I don't know about you, but plain boiled cabbage doesn't really rate high on my favorite dishes. So I'm going to give you corned beef and cabbage with a twist. First, we'll do the corned beef. I've got a 2-pound piece of corned beef, which I've taken out of the package, rinsed, and put in a pot, as you can see, just large enough to hold it. This piece happens to weigh about 2 pounds. Next, I'm going to cover it with cold water. You'll find in most packages of corned beef a little package of spice that comes with it. So I'm going to just snip that open and add that to the corned beef. Some peppercorns, some thyme, some fennel seeds. Basically pickling spices are what these are. So now I'm going to go and put this on the stove, bring it to a simmer, and let it cook for 2 hours. That's about 1 hour per pound. My corned beef has cooked and has cooled in the liquid somewhat. And now I'm making the glaze. In this pan, I have a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, a 1/4 cup of water, and I've simmered these together for 5 minutes. Now I'm going to add a cup of brown mustard that has seeds in it. I'll stir this in. And I'm going to let this cook for another 2 to 3 minutes. All right, my glaze has cooked, and as you can see, has thickened slightly. So I'm just going to give the corned beef a thin coating. I've also preheated my oven to 325 degrees. And I'm going to put this in for 20 minutes. And I'll be reglazing it every few minutes as it goes along. And it'll go in the oven for 20 minutes. But if you're like me, boiled cabbage just doesn't do a whole lot for you. So instead of the traditional boiled cabbage and potatoes along with the corned beef, I'd like to share with you my recipe for Colcannon Cakes. Colcannon is a traditional Irish mixture of potatoes, onions, and cabbage. And it really is so much more delicious as a combination rather than as separate ingredients. So I have in my pan a 1/2 cup of water and 3 tablespoons of butter. I'll let that come to a simmer and just wait until the butter melts. The butter and water have come to a simmer, and I'm going to add a 1/2 pound of cabbage that I have chopped fairly finely. This is going to cook in the butter and water mixture. And the cabbage will give up a lot of its liquid, and I'm going to cook it until it's fairly dry. As you can see, the liquid has almost entirely evaporated, and the cabbage is cooked, which you can really tell because it has now turned a bright green. I'm going to add 1/2 of a fairly large onion that I've chopped. And we're going to let this cook now until the mixture just begins to fry. And it'll have a few little brown spots on it. And that's when we'll know it's ready to go. My cabbage onion mixture has finished cooking, and you can see I'm just starting to see some lightly browned flecks on this. So I know it's ready to dump in my potatoes. I have here a pound of potatoes that I cubed and cooked for about 10 minutes, just until they're tender. I cooked those in salted water, so we do have some salt in here already. Now I'm going to use a pastry blender so that I can control the texture. I don't want these mashed to a puree. I just want them crushed together. It doesn't matter if there's some fairly good lumps of potato. That's just about right. And now I'm just going to let these sit until they're cool enough to handle. My potato mixture is now cool enough to handle, and I'm forming it into cakes. You can make these as large or small as you like. You'll get 5 or 6 cakes. I'm probably going to get about 5 out of this. I did add some freshly ground black pepper to it. And now I'm just going to dredge these in a little flour. Hope this doesn't fall apart. Give that a little squish back together and set that aside. And I think we've got enough for about one more good-sized cake here. You can press this fairly firmly. This isn't like a meatball mixture that you want to be light. You want this to stick together. Again, dredge it in the flour. And these are set to go. To complete my dinner, I'm going to serve some carrots, which, as you can see, I've cut into sticks, or as the French would say, bâtons. I'm going to let these boil until they're cooked and then finish them off with a tiny bit of butter and brown sugar to give them a glaze. In the meantime, I've got my skillet ready with a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of oil, and I'm going to fry up these beautiful Colcannon cakes. I'm going to let those cook for 3 or 4 minutes until they're nicely browned on one side, and then of course we'll flip them over and finish cooking them on the other side. My Colcannon cakes have browned on the first side, and I'm ready to flip them over to brown on the second side. Just a few minutes more to brown on the second side, and we will be ready to serve dinner. The Colcannon cakes have cooked on the second side. They're warm through, and they're ready to serve with my glazed corned beef and glazed carrots for a perfect St. Patrick's Day dinner. And there you have a beautiful St. Patrick's Day dinner. All you need to finish it is a pint of Guinness and maybe some Irish soda bread. Watch for my video on that. And check my website for other recipes.